Hello and welcome to this channel. My name is Malcolm Xavier, and today we have Jermaine Gregory on the show. And the goal is just to share with you some motivational stories which could hopefully motivate if you are looking to move into cybersecurity. I am based in the UK, and I am lucky to speak to a lot of cybersecurity aspirants who struggle in their day-to-day lives, and they have chosen cybersecurity as their potential career option. This is just an attempt to speak to them and understand what their struggle is and help in a way I can. And our first guest is Jermaine Gregory. Let's hear from Jermaine. Welcome to this podcast, Jermaine.
Hi, Malcolm. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. So, Jermaine, just from a context perspective, right? Let's understand what you do, and because this is all about move into cyber, right? So it's important that we understand your background, what you do, and why cybersecurity.
So I think for me, my background is mainly sales, majority sales. I've worked in customer service, facing over the phone. I've done door canvassing even, which is a very, very experiential role to do. You know, you're out in all kinds of weather any time of the year. And I feel like my recent or one of my most recent roles that I was really kind of settling into was in corporate events. An aspect of that is things like health and safety and security of the event, looking at logistics, how to get in and out, what happens in case of. Those things kind of triggered some aspects of me, some thoughts in my mind, and made me think about like how do you secure a thing? And I think it's just transferring those skills to cybersecurity. Everybody uses the internet. I'm quite fond with the internet. But how can we best use it to ensure that our privacy, our data, our information isn't compromised? These are some of the questions that I ask myself in the process and continue to ask myself. And yeah, I think that that's part of the spark that's led me down this road.
Good to hear. So you're basically curious, a curious person who wants to learn more, and you in the journey
Yeah.
while working at different jobs, you discovered what cybersecurity could be, right?
Mm.
So I'm a full-time IT security manager, and for me, it was a long journey, 20 years in the industry, right? So, yesterday I remember I spoke to a few students from India, from United States, and a few from the UK. And the question is, what should I do? Because I'm in the final year, I'm studying computer science. What should I study next? Uh, what would be your suggestion to anyone who is actually asking for a recommendation on a course, or in what should they study, and how do they prepare?
So in my experience, I did a course last year. I took 4 months out and blocked out everything, and had to work around like it's about organizing yourself. The course takes you through a myriad of different aspects from networks to operating systems to digital forensics to ethics and everything within GRC. There were some things that I felt like they were not missing for me, but it kind of introduced you to some of the things, and then there's other threads that you kind of pull at, and then you end up going down that road, and that's for me has been something that I've ended up doing. So I think that generally the curiosity, having an interest in cybersecurity, not just an interest, I would say almost an infatuation in a way, but there's you've got to have something that really inspires you. For me, it's I've come from a human rights background. I've come from sales. I've come from, dealing with people. So I'm kind of bringing all of those things into that course, all of that knowledge, all of that experience. And then I'm kind of experiencing what's out there. There were things that I learned about that I didn't really have much of an interest in, but I still felt, oh, like this is actually quite interesting, like digital forensics. That was something that I didn't really think I'd find attractive, but it turned out that this is actually something that I'd like to look into a little bit more. So it's one of the pillars of my interests. And it's literally just about following through with what you're curious
Yes.
about, what leads you in life.
So as you uncovered things, it just attracted you more
Mm.
to, okay, good, good, great. I think you mentioned GRC, right? And I'm
Yes.
sure that some of the people who are just starting to look into cybersecurity, they may not be aware of what GRC is, or maybe the other options, career options in cybersecurity. So do you want to just mention, from your perspective, if you have chosen a particular area within cybersecurity, what it is and why?
So I think it's the observing processes, observing how things fit together, how they function and operate, and ensuring that they are in integrity to what it is that you're trying to do. Governance, risk, and compliance. It's everything about policy, frameworks, doing the right thing in the right way, in the way that works. Risk is looking at the potentials for the integrity of something to break down. What is the potential of that? How do we ensure that we can guardrail that enough to ensure that it fulfills its purpose? And compliance is everything about looking at laws and legalities and policies and staying within those lines. Of course, these things develop over time, so we have to be flexible, but at the same time, it's all about unifying the unit, the organization, the business, the department, and ensuring that everybody's on board with that.
Yeah. And it's great you elaborated on the GRC part. Is that something, I mean, so when I speak to students, right, for them, they feel that cybersecurity, they have to know programming, or they have to learn, you know, how to basically hack a system.
Mm.
And this could be just an assumption, right? So do you want to talk about that particular aspect where, many people who just don't know the different areas, they probably fear, have this feeling of fear that, cybersecurity might be difficult for me.
Mm.
So how do you want to just motivate these sort of people?
I think if we're looking at cybersecurity as an industry, if you look at cybersecurity as a business, what does a business need? It needs people that do your coding, people that do your pen testing, your ethical hacking. It needs people that manage and lead those people. It needs people that have a vision for the business, the direction that it's moving in. It needs different types of people. It's just a mini society, a microcosm of society within a business, despite whether it's a pen testing company or whether it's a analyst organization, there's different aspects that make up what the business is.
That's great. So what is the one piece of advice that you would give to someone who's actually just starting their journey?
Learn as much as you can. I think that's really important. Learn as much as you can, experience as much as you can, expose yourself to as much as you can, because then you'll kind of figure out which direction that you want to go. I think for a lot of people, pen testing is quite sexy and attractive. And, people think, oh, yeah, it's really cool. I saw it on Ocean's 11 or in Fast and Furious where they're sat on a laptop and hacking into a system, and then they go and do a job. Not as glamorous as people might think. And actually, for somebody like myself, I'm not really a coder. I'm not a technical person in that sense. I understand the concepts, but for me, I would prefer to be somebody who's kind of observing the process, working with people who are doing that and obtaining the information and doing the reporting on that, and then looking at, okay, how can we tighten this up? How can we address this issue? That's my thing.
Okay, great. And thank you for uncovering that aspect wherein, not everyone has to be technical or a techie just to move into cybersecurity, right? Is there any, like, obviously you were enrolled into a 4-month course, but to someone who doesn't have that option, to go for a structured course, are there courses available online? And if they are, what can you share more on that particular aspect?
Yeah, several places will do them, several of your big organizations and maybe smaller organizations online. So you can do short courses, you can do longer courses, you can do guided courses, courses where you're in a classroom with others. The way that I chose the course that I did was I looked at the list from the government website, the offering, and I looked at individual courses and had a look through the actual curriculum and the syllabus and sort of looked at what they do. And the one that I picked was the broadest scope. So for me, I want to learn as much about a thing as possible. So that felt right for me. For somebody else, it might be that, no, I really want to go into, pen testing, or I want to be in the yellow team or something like that. So something that's very specific to networks, for example, that might be more appropriate for you if you've got a background in it, if you have experience in it, if you're someone that, tinkers with your PC at home, maybe you've set up a server and you've got other people accessing it, that kind of thing. Like if that interests you, go with that. But for me, I think in a more high level kind of approach. And so I think that having a broad understanding of how these multiple pieces fit together and how do you best make them work, that works for me.
Okay, great to understand from your perspective as to how students can approach this, right? Yesterday, I was speaking to one of the students from California, and he's basically just finishing his computer science. He said he's doing a course on Cisco, basically fundamentals. So from that perspective, there are courses available from all these big vendors, Cisco, Microsoft, Google, right? Fundamental courses, and that's available at no cost.
Mm.
And if
Yeah.
people really want to move into cybersecurity and are serious, again, the way you researched the content of the courses available from the government side, compared it with other available options, and then choose what you want to cover, I think that's a great strategy because then you just targeting that particular area, completing the course, and then potentially maybe asking questions to like your network as to what that particular thing means if it's
Mm.
self-study.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
sometimes it can become a bit overwhelming when you're going through boot camps or studying on your own.
Yeah.
Sometimes you could just be thrown in a corner with the heavy like jargons that
It
some
it
of the
was a
trainers
lot.
use.
It
Yeah.
was a lot to do, and this thing that I mentioned earlier about organizing your time and yourself and the things around you, that's really, really important. The course that I was doing, it was 4 months. It was 9 till 3 every day. So I'm having to take my son to school in the morning, rush back home, and then go and rush off to pick him up at the end of the day, and then do everything else. Some courses they also do a part-time course. I went with the full-time option, but they also do a part-time course, which is 3 hours in the evening, which, that might be more suitable for some people. Then there's other courses where you kind of do it in your own time, and then some of them are free and some of them you pay for. But there are a lot of different options out there that can work for people, and you can do it at your own pace, or you can do something within, like the one I did was within a classroom environment where we had mini groups within the big cohort, and we got to do breakouts and complete exercises and tasks, and then come back into the room and then share, and we'd be able to ask questions to each other and learn from each other. That for me was quite representative of the working environment. So that felt good for me. That felt like real, tangible for me.
Oh, that's good to hear. Bringing collaboration and how you learn also helps, right? When you collaborate with the classroom or your peers, and not have everyone has that luxury, right? Some people maybe are busy in their 9 to 5 jobs. They get time, maybe they sit down, enroll in a particular course. There are different style of studies. In my experience, I've been a trainer for a long time and a mentor for a long time. And I've just seen people study in different ways. Someone could just maybe plug in the headset, go for an evening walk and listen to audio podcasts.
Yeah.
But there will be a serious learner who would like, go through a boot camp, watch those videos and take notes, detailed out every single note. But then there are people who, there are certain type of characteristics where they will potentially buy a book or maybe print out pages and use a highlighter to highlight things, right? In my view, I think whatever is your style, I would say stick to your style and whatever works for you, right? But I think, as you said, you had a challenge where you had to manage your family life as well as ensure that, you complete the 4 month
Yeah.
course and
Yeah.
still stay on course, right? What was your motivation? Why did you think that, you could still do it and still be in the race? What was your motivation?
I have no idea. I must have been crazy to think that I could do it at the time. One, I wanted to complete the course. I did have a wobble in the first 4 to 5 sessions where I thought, oh my gosh, what am I doing? this is too much. I don't know if I can do this. And I had a sit down and a chat with one of the tutors, and she just kind of reassured me. She just said, listen, just trust the process. Know that, this is a change. It's a shift. You're having to really look at what's going on in your life. But ultimately, if you want to do the course, then, you've got to commit yourself to it and really immerse yourself in the course. And so I think it was leading up to the weekend, and so I had a couple of days off to kind of think and process. And then on the Monday morning, I just went at it, and I loved it. I think that part of it was being with a group of people, a new group of people that I don't know, that I'm getting to know in the process, and we're all at different levels of understanding of cybersecurity and security on the whole. Working in a team, that real teamwork and understanding what makes each other tick, it's figuring that out in the process. And then at the end of it, at the end of the day, or at the end of, a couple, 2 or 3 sessions, it might be a presentation. So then you're having to do public speaking in this, which isn't everybody's thing. But for me, I think that was really the thing, the area that I kind of began to really step into and get some confidence with. And it was noticeable, the difference in the first couple of weeks to maybe about a month in, and how I was coming across and communicating. And it was something that I wanted to do because I feel like there's a lot of potential. There are a lot of different areas in cybersecurity. There are new areas popping up. It's growing and developing, and it's changing. And I feel like there are angles that we haven't even touched just yet. So, there's a lot of scope for ideas and concepts, and to bring your human self into the industry, and to explore what's possible.
Thank you. I think small chats with trainers, with mentors, with your fellow students always helps, right? So if you are in the journey and you find yourself alone and if you're not able to figure out why you're stuck and how you can get out of that situation, then always reach out to a wider pool of network that's available. And I've tried this in my journey as well. I try to stay active on LinkedIn, try to contribute, reach out to people whenever I need suggestion. And that's what I've also seen that, these days, students who want to move into cybersecurity learning, and they are posting about their journey.
Mm.
If they're if they have probably finished the curriculum, they summarize. I think I've seen you also do that, Jermaine,
Yeah,
where you finish the course and then you summarize and then you post, this is what I've learned, isn't it? So
yeah,
I
yeah.
would you encourage people to use platforms? Would you encourage people to network?
Think for sure. I think part of the course was the mentoring, which is where we met. And in fact, I took part in 2 mentoring groups, one with my actual group during the sessions, and then somebody else was offering some of their time to another group of mentors, which included yourself. And I took that opportunity because I felt like there's other things that I can learn from other people. And whilst I'm on this course, I want to maximize the time that I invest in this. So yeah, is that. And of course, so for example, when I'm sharing on LinkedIn, I'm consolidating my learning and putting my questions, my thoughts out there, and then other people can comment and add things, and then I learn even more from people who are doing the course with me, people who have joined the course since, and also more experienced professionals.
Great. So I think I mean, just as this has been a great 20-minute discussion so far, we understood why you wanted to move into cybersecurity. We've understood that you went for a 4-month course because some of the students might think cybersecurity, maybe they can learn everything within a week. Some might think maybe 3 years would not be enough as well. So you've given a good understanding of the duration of how people can learn. You've given them different areas, right? Like you talked about GRC, then you talked about, that not everyone is a hacker. People think that being a hacker would be cool. But I think from a realistic scenario, when we look at the market, right, at the job market, I'm sure you also searched and looked for jobs in the market.
Yeah, yeah.
Where are most of the jobs available? The blue team, red team, GRC?
I think that I think that I've began to narrow down my search. At first, I was looking at SOC, there were a few roles in SOC. There were some roles that came up through the channels on the course. And analyst, I think, is quite a popular one right now. Information security, generally officer or manager or consultant. I think consultancy is something that pops up across the board as well. There are jobs being advertised out there, and there are a lot of different opportunities in terms of hybrid or in office. I've recently moved out of London, so I've kind of moved away from where a lot of some of the jobs are, but I'm quite well placed because I'm in the center of the UK. So getting to the north or to the Midlands or to down south, kind of is I'm in an opportune location at the moment. But yeah, there's hybrid offerings, which is great because of my personal situation where I've got my young son and my partner and the situation there. So there's things that I can make work. It's just finding that right role for me that I want to get into a role that I can grow into, but also I can help to shape at the same time.
Okay, great. I think those are some useful tips, Jermaine. And as you mentioned, analysts, right? It's interesting because as a IT security manager, I work with analysts. Basically, those analysts would be implementing projects for me. Mostly, I think for students or for others who don't know how the actual cybersecurity world works, right? I mean, different companies will have their own strategies, different organizations will have different ways of managing cybersecurity. But in most cases, what I have seen is that security operations or the SOC is mostly outsourced to a third party, right? They take care of the day-to-day monitoring of security alerts, events that are generated, but the actual resolution, if there is something that has been detected, then stays in-house because that's where accountability comes in, right? You want the people who know your business, you want the people who are dedicated to your business actually working on incidents, someone you can trust more rather than third parties. Partnerships with a SOC provider helps you understand what are the alerts, but then use the in-house analyst or incident responders to solve that incident. And if there is a complex attack, a cybersecurity complex attack, which cannot be dealt with in-house, then you companies also provide incident retainer services, wherein you can always hire those expertise who have level 3 expertise. They can join your call, your bridge, incident response war rooms, and advise as to what is needed, right? You mentioned incident response and digital forensics is also an interesting area. I think you must have definitely touched incident response and digital forensics, right? So in my networking, I have seen so many people just narrowing down on SOC, incident response, and digital forensics, and then some people just want to because they feel that they're not too technical, and that's why they want to move into GRC. So I think our perspective in our conversation, I'm pretty sure that it will help people understand what they could potentially target and narrow down on because sometimes it can become challenging and overwhelming when you look at cybersecurity, 8 domains, 10 domains,
Yeah.
cryptography,
And it's
cryptography for
it's a
some
whole
people.
new language. There's certain terms that come with it, like any industry. I was
Absolutely.
having a
Yeah.
conversation with a friend, and she mentioned IP, and I had to think, wait, what was she talking about? Is she talking intellectual property or internet protocol? And yeah, it's context. Yeah. Sorry.
No, I think, and that's where note taking helps. I personally felt, there are different ways of learning. Everyone has a different style. Note taking for me has been the most effective. And there is a concept, and scientific concept called spaced learning, wherein you learn something, then you revise, and then you move on to the next one. Then you learn the second topic, then you revise the first and the second. It's like cumulative gains. So then you go to the third topic, you complete the third topic, then you revise first, second, third, but you do not put much emphasis on the revision. You just narrow down the revision and you only revise concepts that are difficult. For example, one of my friend who never worked in cybersecurity, he was doing the CISSP exam,
Mm-hmm.
which is considered as the most difficult one, but also regarded as one of the best gold standard in cybersecurity. And it is a difficult one, right? However, he used the right strategy of, like space learning, revision. And what he used to do is He used to record his own voice of, when he used to summarize the notes, he used to record it uh, and then share it with his mentor. That this is my understanding of the topic. Do you agree? And then the mentor would get back to my friend and say, hey, I think your understanding is slightly incorrect. This is how it is. And then that correction helped him reinforce the knowledge better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So work with your style. Everyone, I think, especially everyone studying cybersecurity, they would have their own success path, or their own methods that they would have tried in the past, college, universities, right? Just use your own method, stick to it, and just stay confident, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. I think um the way that I learn, I can learn in different ways. I can do my own self-learning. So
Yeah.
I'm reading a lot of audiobooks concerning cybersecurity and management and organization and things. I'm currently reading a book on bureaucracy by Brian J. Robertson. Um, and um, I think, like I said, consolidating my learning through my newsletter, which is every month, where I'll take a topic and I'll look at, so for example, the recent breach with the British Library, I did a whole sort of like article on that. I researched and looked at commentary and, who was involved and what happened in the process and what they believed was the issue, really talked about my thoughts on how we can look at bettering our security posture on the whole. This is a national institution,
Absolutely.
international
Yeah.
even.
Yes.
So it's really important that they take security seriously and, just reflecting on their reflections. And they did like an open report to the industry where they shared what had happened. And I thought that was a great idea because we need to share more, I think. And, LinkedIn being a great place to share, of course, can be really, really helpful.
Sure. And I think I went to the National Center for Cybersecurity conference last year in May that happened in Birmingham. And the British Library case was presented on the stage in front of 4,000, 5,000 people. And when you're sitting and individually researching that particular topic, it helps you more because that subject will stay in your head for a longer time. And at the end, it's all about lessons learned, right? You learn from others' mistakes.
Yeah.
And then if you're positioned as a cybersecurity professional in an organization, you'll always think what could potentially go wrong and then advise mitigation steps. Cybersecurity is all about risk management. So you start proactively thinking about what could potentially go wrong and then work on ensuring that your defense is very much in place.
Yeah. And I think some of the issues sometimes, like in the British Library case, where they had legacy systems that couldn't be updated and it was quite fractured, and it's thinking about how do you work with the system as it is until you get the new resources, until you get the new software, until you get the new models. What can you do best to, maintain a good or the best security posture that you can in the meantime? And that's I think that's one of the challenges. I think sometimes we kind of come into new spaces thinking, yeah, I know about this product, let's get this, let's do that. And then your finance team and your board and your CISO will kind of restrain you, and they kind of say, hey, listen, we've got certain parameters and criteria that we need to meet. So it's being able to again, like, work with people, be persuasive, be able to put forward a proposal that's very material, and that makes sense, and being able to communicate that in a way that they understand.
Correct. Because I think that's where soft skill development is also very important. It's not about the skills that you bring in, the technical skills that you bring in. Sometimes you might be sitting with your bosses into senior exec meetings where the CFO, the CIO, and speaking to senior members of the organization, and that's where you need to have the ability to translate technical terms into more business-oriented language. So, for example, if you have to do for example, data center refresh where you have to replace older switches, older network stack, older servers, you just don't say we need to replace because they are old, right? You will get challenged. And especially when you move into senior roles, you will get challenged. But at a junior level, I would suggest always stay curious as to why do you think your boss is recommending a change? Why do you think we should patch it? As you mentioned about the British Library case study, you mentioned about legacy systems, right? Legacy systems can contain vulnerabilities, and those vulnerabilities can be exploited by attackers, right? So it's so important to understand the threat landscape. But at the same time, it's also important that you build up on your soft skills. So it's always a journey, isn't it? You don't just learn cybersecurity in a span of 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, and then be an expert.
Yeah.
It's always a journey. It's always a journey. And I'm really impressed, Jermaine, with your approach as to how you learn, and I'm sure that will motivate the listeners. They can probably take a leaf from your book, and then there may be some learnings from me as well. I always try and experiment in the ways of learning, and when I talk to students in mentoring sessions, I understand what they do, and can I adopt that strategy, to become better. Great. So, what is your short-term plan and what is your long-term plan then as you're moving jobs and moving into cybersecurity?
Yeah. Okay. So I've recently gotten a role in automotives. So driving a lot of cars, assessing a lot of cars, and it's that cybersecurity thing just in the background. Thinking like, okay, this is really interesting. How can we protect the integrity of this function in the car? How can it function better? Looking at different cars and how they do their own thing separately. Like cruise control is very different from one brand to another.
Another, yeah.
Lane assist, etc. So I'm spending time in the evenings. It might be an hour, it might be 30 minutes, even just looking at roles. Sometimes I will just look at roles, read through descriptions, and kind of maybe make some tweaks to my CV and then apply to maybe two or three. So the volume of applications that I'm making at the moment has kind of gone down, and it's gone down over time because I'm being more specific, and it's looking at the amount of time that I have and also the scope of the role, and does it meet what I feel comfortable with? And I'm just going to continue learning. I've got a couple of certifications that I'm lining up that I want to take to help to kind of affirm and give some efficacy to my learning and also to my CV as well. And continuing to read books and to write and to really continue to connect with mentors and stay in the loop regardless of where I am, personally. I think that's really important. And I'd like to think, I'd hope that even when I do get into cybersecurity, I will still continue to do those things because it's how I learn, and it's how you obtain more information. Having this conversation with you and the conversations that we've had in our mentoring sessions, I've been able to learn about what you do and what you do at your company and how that relationship works. And the same with the other mentors that I've had from the course. I've maintained contact with them, with some of them more so than others, but it's being able to dip in periodically and maintaining a consistency really that's can be problematic sometimes because life happens, but it's having that option to be around those people.
Absolutely. And informal learning, right, I think is very important. You don't have to just focus on the structured material. When you speak to mentors, when you speak to people in general, you learn from what they like so for example, the other day when I was talking to one of my CISO friends back in India, he was talking about the recent incident, and I basically just don't listen to the statement of that incident. I basically ask them, how did you resolve it? What were the key areas, and how much time did you actually take? Right? Do you think there is anything that you could have done better to avoid that incident? And that's how you actually learn from conversation. So I would say if anyone out there who's just completed fundamentals and who still needs to know how an actual industry works, find a mentor and learn from them. Try to understand how cybersecurity is implemented or how cybersecurity goes on. And there's always continuous improvement that happens in
Yeah.
cybersecurity. It's never an implementation that works all. It's the
Yeah.
threat landscape changes every single day, and that's why we have to be innovative in the way we work. We have to be a critical thinker, analyze problems before they happen. right?
Yeah, and just sort of on that note, I was just thinking of this tip that might come in handy for some people. What I've done is I've signed up to a number of different newsletters, so I kind
Hmm.
of get little clips of what's happening in the industry. And sometimes there'll be articles that might be slightly longer reads, but it will involve mentions of certain people. So I'll go and look those people up and request and connect with them on LinkedIn, shoot them a message and ask them about something, or say, I read this article on CISO preparation for, events. What's your particulars about X or Y? What do you think about this? Just try to create a conversation. I think a lot of people are quite open and they will respond. I've had a lot of responses. It might take some time, but it's just keeping that rhythm of
Yeah,
engagement going.
some people can be busy in their day-to-day lives, but I think everyone likes to share, and knowledge. When you share, it just helps you in indirectly, right? In indirect manner.
Yeah.
And again, you after our mentoring session, you also tried to say and connect with me. You asked questions, we spoke, and then we shared some information which helped you. And that's always on the agenda, especially when it comes to senior people when they're trying to mentor. Giving is something that is appreciated on both sides.
Yeah.
All right, so as we move to the last lap of this, Jermaine, what are the 5 tips that you would give to anyone who's just starting on this path?
Organize your time, organize yourself, really prepare for the study, read around the subject, the topic, and areas that are around that topic too, and look at how that fits into an organization in the wider sense. Read, read, connect with people in the industry, connect with CISOs and analysts and junior staff and people of all levels. Connect particularly with people that are in the field that you want to get into, and ask questions. It's really important to ask questions, ask for help. Um, I think, is that 5? I think,
And the list can always go on, isn't it?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
yeah. No, but I think you touched on key areas. Ask for help. Don't be shy. Ask for help. People be patient as well. Don't give up. Sometimes you might just apply for those 3, 4 jobs in a month, and then you'll say it's not working for me.
I've
Be
applied for a
patient
lot
here.
of jobs
Yeah.
and had a lot of rejections, and I've had a handful of conversations, back and forth interactions with some people, and they've helped me to kind of just sharpen up how I'm communicating through my CV. But it's like anything, it's a numbers game. It's finding the right company at the right time. And we're coming up to the new financial year now, so hopefully there will be an opening up of some new roles coming. So we'll
That
see what happens.
interesting perspective, German. I really appreciate the way you analyze things and, your patience, your resilience and learning and staying focused. And that's where what is important. And I'm sure that this is something that others will learn from you. Great Sunday morning, and thank you very much for giving your valuable time to us, Jeremiah. And
Thank you for the
I
invite.
just wish you luck in your journey. And I'm pretty confident that you will do well, and then you will continue to be seen as someone who helps others. Thank you very much for joining me in this journey.
Thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this. It's been great. Thank you for your time. And yeah, it's been a pleasure.
No
Really
worries. Take
appreciate
care.
it.
Speak to you soon. Thank you.
Take care. Bye bye.